Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
Love is medicine. Learning from each other is a precious practice, and positive change is possible, says successful Indigenous author, speaker, and consultant Monique Gray Smith. That sounds like good medicine to me. Let's learn more. Hello, Medaki Api, and welcome to Hochoka here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian Schools campus. I'm Scott Wooster, your Hochoka host. We're glad you've joined our circle with Monique Gray Smith, award-winning author, speaker, and professional consultant. She joined us twice before here in Hochoka this season, and we enjoy her once again today to discuss her work as an author. So welcome back, Monique.
Thank you. Grateful to be with you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you in the studio here. We've had a couple conversations already about Braiding Sweetgrass and your adaptation of that book. It's a great text. It's a sacred text. It's a wonderful book. But today I want to focus on your other work, and it's work that gives us a better glimpse into exactly what I said in the lead-in, which is love and hope, and it's kind of your trademark. So can you talk about that a little bit?
That's how I was raised, you know, that to focus on love, to focus on hope, to focus on joy. Even though there was a lot of chaos in my house, a lot of hard things that really happened, those were the messages. And it's tender because my mom died not very long ago. And I can remember my daughter asking me, like, how come Cookham was so joyous when she grew up like she did? And it made me really think about the choices that we make, about the emotions we choose to focus on and the emotions we choose to feel and to express. And sometimes it doesn't feel like a choice. Sometimes we get kind of sideswiped, or so much happens in our life it feels almost impossible to feel joy or hope or love. But in those moments, I think it's kind of like coming back to all our conversations around braiding sweetgrass for young adults, that it starts with gratitude and cultivating that grateful heart. And that was one of the things my mom really did so beautifully, was to teach us about gratitude. And it wasn't like she sat us down and taught us.
Right.
It was how she lived her life.
Yep.
And when you think about a granddaughter saying, how come Cookham was so joyous, when you look at her history of her life? So I think that, you know, in that middle generation that I am, between my mom and my daughter and my son, that I've had to make choices around how do I want to live my life? And how do I want to express my gift of being a human being on the planet at this time? And so for me, it's focusing on those emotions that help us to experience the world through love.
Absolutely. And I would think that, like you said, your mom role modeled that for you, and obviously role modeled it for your daughter as well. And it made it a comfortable place for you to carry that legacy on, which is a beautiful thing, I think. So one of the things, and you write about that too in your books, and so one of the things that I think demonstrates your strength as a writer is the fact that your work crosses a number of age ranges, right? So and it's interesting that in the beginning of this, you're talking about generational, you're talking about the one above you, one below you, and that sort of thing. For our audience, let's try to organize the conversation a little bit around age groups, and with the caveat that many of the good messages are actually ageless. It doesn't matter whether you're old or young, it comes in the same way. How would you respond to that?
Oh, I totally agree. And I think sometimes that, you know, these messages for quote unquote children are also salves for us as adults. Because sometimes we didn't get these messages as children.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, hope, what fills my heart with happiness, right? That first little children's book, My Heart Fills with Happiness. That last question in the book is, what fills your heart with happiness? Because I wanted, well, first of all, my children always loved whenever there was a question in a book. But I wanted a child at the end of a book to have that release of oxytocin, that love hormone, right? That sense of belonging and connectedness, especially if they were going into sleep, that they'd have that gentle transition. And then what often happened also when my kids, the question was in the book, they would turn to us and ask us that same question. So I was thinking, like, if the question at the end of the book is what fills your heart with happiness, when the child answers, hopefully they turn to whoever's reading it to them, their cousin, their auntie, their grandparent, a parent, a sibling, and then that person also gets that flood of that love hormone. So in there's the intergenerational healing.
Yeah.
So while books might be for children, they also have messages to remind us of our unique, inherent ways of being in the world that sometimes over age we forget.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like when do I feel happier? And why haven't I been doing that?
Right.
So it's good moments for pause.
Absolutely, and it's a good way for generations to connect with each other too. And as you're saying that, it makes me think about reading books to my daughter when she was young, and about what that did for me. Some of the happiest moments of my life were being able to sit down and you become a child again in a way. It's beautiful.
Totally. And the beauty is when we cuddle up and read, the things that happen in the child's brain, the firing that happens in their brain, and the new pathways that develop are so important in their love to learn, their love to read, their love to experience the world, and in our relationships. So I just encourage that to any families who are listening to us. When you're reading to your child, make sure you're touching them in some way.
Absolutely. Among your works for the very youngest are My Heart Fills with Happiness, right? And When We Are Kind, You Hold Me Up, and I Hope. Can you tell us, give us a little snippet or a recap of those 4 books?
Sure. So My Heart Fills with Happiness, illustrated by the incredible Julie Flett. And it's always important to say who the illustrator is, because you might be reading to a future illustrator. So to hold up their dignity. It was inspired at a Head Start. We have in Canada, our Aboriginal Head Starts are similarly modeled after Head Start here in the United States. There are cultural preschools. And I was doing some trauma training with the staff and the parents. And at lunch, the kids joined us. And this little guy came in, and he was a little more cautious. And he was looking around for his person, Cookum in my language, Grandma. And he found her, and he ran over to her. And she took his face in her hands, and she looked at him with so much love. His whole body changed. And what I saw was his heart filled with happiness. So that was the catalyst for that little book. You Hold Me Up is illustrated by Danielle Daniel, and it really is a book about how do we want to be together as humans. You hold me up when you listen to me, when you share stories with me, when you respect me, when you're kind to me. So it's about our relationality with each other. When We Are Kind is a book about how does it feel when I am kind, and also how does it feel when somebody is kind to me. So it helps children understand the importance of kind of being in reciprocal relationships. Like we talked about in Braiding Sweetgrass for young adults, that I can be kind, but also kindness comes back to me. And it ends with a line that says, when we are kind, we remember we are all related. So while, most of the illustrations are focusing on our human relatives, there is also, I am kind when I take care of the earth. I am kind when I only take what I need or I'm going to give away.
Yeah.
And then I Hope is a book about all the things that I think we as adults hope for our children, our nieces, our nephews, our grandchildren, for all children. And it's interesting to me how many high school principals and superintendents call me in June and say, that's what I read at our high school grad. Because that's their hope, right? It's like, I hope you will be respectful. I hope you will be a caretaker of Mother Earth. I hope that you and those you love have a safe place to sleep, clean water, and healthy food. These things that sometimes we take for granted. And but there are hopes for the next generation. And sometimes, even as adults, people will say to me, I read that book and I'm reminded of my own hopes that I have for myself as well. I hope that I am kind, right? Those pieces.
Yeah.
So those are the children's books that are out now. Another one coming in April, so soon after this is being released, called Dreaming Alongside, and illustrated by Nicole Neidhart, who also did When We Are Kind.
Okay.
Yeah, about all the places children dream. And then that question is like, what are you dreaming about? It's like, and I hope also. I have lots of hopes for you and for me, but I wonder, what are your hopes? So that the adults who are reading these books begin to understand, what are the hopes of the children that I'm reading to? What are the dreams of the children that I'm reading to? Because it gives us glimpses into the gifts they've been blessed with. And then how do we help cultivate those gifts so that they can contribute to the wellness of the world?
Yeah. So I think that's great. And I think what we have here on our campus at this school, and you're going to love it, you're going to have a great time.
I'm so excited.
You're going to get to visit the library, and you're going to get to share, well, with all the kids, of course, but in the library it'll be with the third graders, and you'll get to talk about those books and watch their reactions and reflections on what you're sharing, which I think will be a blast. Your writing isn't all geared for the young kids. You, like we said earlier, you write for a broad age range, and so as your writing is geared more towards older folks, and by that I don't mean old folks, but as we go up the scale, we talk about hope and love for kids, keep the message pretty simple, but then as people are able to wrestle with some more complex issues, you also are able to get into those conversations with frankness, right? A gentle frankness. It's direct but tender at the same time. And so you wrote a book called Lucy and Lola, which is a good example of that, I think. Do you have anything to say about that book?
Well, it's interesting you bring that book up. It was inspired with my family and I having lunch with the Honorable Murray Sinclair.
Okay.
Who led our country in Canada on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Okay.
And he recently passed away.
Okay.
So it's a tender book for me at this time because he, in my heart, is one of the greatest humanitarians of our country. But it was a visit with him that inspired that book, and it's a story about twin girls who are growing up in the city, and their mom's been called to the bar. And so she's asked if they can go spend the summer with their cookum on a small island just outside of Vancouver Island. And they're not very happy about this. They're happy to see their cookum, but cookum has no Wi-Fi. She has no TV. She's got no electronics. And so they're a bit dismayed.
Yeah.
But through their time with her, they begin to understand their family's history and really the strength of their family. In this story, especially the women of their family. And as it turns out at the end of the story, they want to come back for next summer again for another visit. So that story helps the reader to understand the truth of Canada's history in regards to residential schools. And as you call them here in the United States, boarding schools. And help them understand their family's history.
Right, and that's more geared towards...
I'd say probably 8 or 9 to 99.
Okay, yeah, the full age range. It's something that and again, as I said in the question, it's a incredibly complex issue. And so to be able to present that in a story for any of us, but young adult readers who are discovering that issue for the first time, you have to write in a certain way to be able to connect without alienating too, and to do it the right way.
And I'll just say that book is part of a collection. So there's 2 novellas. So Lucy and Lola is one.
Okay.
And it's a flip book. So literally when you flip the book over, there's a beautiful story by Richard Van Camp. And it's called When We Play Our Drums, They Sing.
Okay.
So so in this book you get 2 beautiful stories.
Nice, very nice. So you wrote 2 books, the works Tilly and then Tilly and the Crazy Eights are both, they're fiction, playful, poignant fiction, and they're about the impact of the boarding school on the aging population or aging generation, the folks who experienced it early on that are still around. They're suitable for young adults. But I know also that the gal who produces our show has been enjoying those quite a bit, and she's not a young adult anymore. So I mean, they're like you said, they're readable across an age range.
Tilly, A Story of Hope and Resilience, was actually my first published book. And it kind of opened the door for possibility.
Okay.
And I think it's a gentle book that helps people understand the truth of history.
Yeah.
And then Tilly and the Crazy Eights is the road trip of 8 elders from Vancouver, Canada to Albuquerque.
Okay.
For the World Powwow.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's how the story is going to unfold, because they're on the bus for a lot. And, there's some shenanigans. They have a stop in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yep. And Gathering of Nations is going to be a fun time for them down there for sure. Yeah.
And it's also poignant because one of the elders gets really moved in Grand Entry because she's like, for so long these ceremonies were illegal, and here I am with 20,000 of our people and 2,500 dancers. It's just so powerful.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right?
Yep. And I think it's interesting you say that, because I think that's the power of those ceremonies now too, to remind us that they were gone, they were outlawed, and here we are, they're here to stay, which is a powerful message. But the other thing that I think about when you talk about those two books is that I can hear it in the title of the book, Tilly and the Crazy Eights. It sounds fun, it sounds playful, but it also speaks to that thing that I like and that I think is present in most Indigenous cultures, which is that juxtaposition of the light and the dark, where they're having fun on their journey, but they're also experiencing things that remembrances and talking about pain and healing and those kinds of things. Am I right on that?
Totally. And it's kind of how our conversation began when I was talking about my mom and my daughter Sadie's kind of insight to her.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, as we understand each other, we understand some of the darkness, and then we're like in awe that the light is still present.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep. And there's still humor there, and there's still fun and love.
Totally.
It can't be extinguished, even through the harshest situations. Okay, so at some point during your visit here at St. Joe's, you'll work with a group of people that are actively involved in some of the things that we've been talking about, the truth and reconciliation process, which I think St. Joe's is really working hard to make that happen here, and to do it in the right way, and to do that with respect to the folks who went to school here. And it's a tricky. It really is a tricky thing to get just right. So your work, Speaking Our Truth, addresses those topics of reconciliation, the need to speak the truth, the need to reconcile, and it's a great book. What do you want us to know about that book, and what will you share with staff today about what they need to do to help our young people through that?
Speaking Our Truth, A Journey of Reconciliation, is about the journey around boarding schools as well as other aspects of history. Because when I was writing that book, I didn't want the children or the young at heart who were reading it, because a lot of adults have read it, because it's a gentle way into the history. And many adults, especially teachers working in our systems, didn't grow up knowing this truth. And so now we're asking them to really teach very tender topics that aren't part of their kind of lived experience, or maybe it is their lived experience and it's a very tender topic, or part of their family's lived experience. I think about those schools as an annihilation on our love. It was an annihilation on our love of our family, of our community, of culture, of language, of our connection to the land, to the stars, to the other worlds. And so when I was writing Speaking Our Truth, there were times when I wanted to quit. I actually didn't even want to take on the project.
Right.
Because I knew that it would call on me to kind of be bigger than I thought I could be. And I really don't mean by ego, but it would take me to places that I hadn't yet gone in my own healing journey and in my family's healing journey. And I wasn't sure I had the capacity to go on that journey and write. There were 3 specific times when I called my publisher and I said, like, you have to find somebody to finish this book because... And they just took it's Orca Book Publishers, and they took such amazing care of me to just kind of gently bring me back. And when I got the first edits from the editor, it was that I had to cut 20,000 words from the first draft. I had never written for this age. I'd never written nonfiction. I'm not a trained writer.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know what I was doing. And so I got that feedback as I was traveling for a speaking engagement. And so I landed and got that feedback. And I got back on the plane and I was just like, oh my goodness. Because I felt such immense responsibility to hold up the dignity of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were about to land in Saskatoon, Canada, in Saskatchewan. And we were flying over the river. And what came to me was, the river runs through the land like the stories run through our blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then I knew what had to be in the book was the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where our hearts change.
Right.
So today when I'm working with the teams, I'll talk about, like, when we want to have difficult conversations, we have to start really slow.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means going outside for half an hour. Because if you say to the learners, okay, today is our first introductory class to boarding schools, if they have a history in their family, which many will,
mm-hmm.
their brains will flood with cortisol
Mm-hmm.
because of the epigenetical memory or their own memories. And then they can't learn. They're not present. And their ability to be a civil citizen in the classroom is compromised.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to remove that cortisol and fill it with oxytocin, that connection, the love, the belonging, so that then there can be conversation, then there can be reciprocal dialogue that happens. So outside, or watching something funny, like, there's ways to connect. The educator will know the best way to do that with their learners. But that's where we have to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then how we end is equally as important as how we start before they go to what's next. Because if you leave them kind of open and they're feeling, tender, and then they go to, let's say, I don't know, another class where they have to actually be, like, really academically thinking, we haven't set them up to be able to do that.
Right.
So it's not that we tie everything up in a little bow, but it's that we're thinking full circle. Okay, we're going to have this conversation, but how do I intentionally think about how do I bring it to close for now,
Mm-hmm.
so that the learner can go to what's next?
Mm-hmm.
It's a delicate dance. It really is.
It is.
But I think if we think about those schools being an annihilation to our love, then the medicine is love.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it all comes back to. So how those educators hold space for love to be present in the class is really important.
Right. So the topic is going to be difficult no matter what, and you have to share that with adults on how to share it with the kids, which is a pretty mean feat. That's a tricky task to undertake. But you solve the problem the same way the problem was created. I mean, if the love was taken away, we solve it by bringing the love back or mending the hoop in that way, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. Yes, mending the hoop. I love that.
Yeah. It's been fantastic having those books out there. I just want to say it's been fantastic having you come on the show to share about your books and to just share your message. And I'm excited about what the kids and the staff will get from that. So
I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. So from all of us, I here at Ho-Chok and just at St. Joe's, we say Wobila to you. Thank you for being here. And we say to our audience, thank you for joining us here today at Ho-Chok at the center of St. Joseph's Indian Schools campus, where we talk about issues that are central to Native American education today. Until next time, stay centered.